Now that we learned to create a compound clip in our previous video, we're going to go into that clip and we're going to actually create an animation, a very basic animation using the same concept that we learned in the first lesson of this animation unit. If you recall, we created an animation using only two pictures. We took two sticky notes and we put them on a skewer. And on one side it had an image, and on the other side it had a very similar image with just a very basic, very subtle movement to it. And that created a very basic two-image animation. And we're going to apply that same concept here. So if we select this the compound clip that we created recently, the compound clip that we created recently, I want to go into this compound clip where we can see all of the clips that we use to create this compound clip. In other words, all of the parts to the character, the legs and the torso and the arms and all of that. If you see this little icon here on the far left of the clip and you select that, it'll take you to all of the clips that we utilize to make this compound clip. So you'll notice this is the head here. Here's your left arm, your right arm, the torso, and at the very bottom should be the pants. So let's start by making a subtle movement to the legs at the bottom here. We're going to go and select the transform feature one more time here. We know that it's selected when this is blue and there's some blue dots that are all the way around the image. If I select this, if I hold on to this little arm, you see that there's a little arm or a little circle right here, and there's another arm over to the right, then I can actually rotate this a little bit. So I want a very subtle rotation. So you might start off here where it's nice and straight, and I want a very subtle rotation. I don't want a very big rotation. I just want a very subtle rotation going on with the hips here. Now that I've done that, I want to take this timeline and bring it all the way to the very beginning. And if you select the arrow key on your keyboard, the one that's pointing to the right, that'll bring you about 5 frames over. We're going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames. And we'll notice that that happened because this line moved over to right about here, which is about 5 frames over. You'll also notice that it says 5 right here. That's counting the number of frames. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to bring this clip to that line. In other words, I want to make this clip, instead of being this long, I want to make it very short up to that line right here. I can't really see the end of this clip at this point. So if I come down here to this slider feature that we have here, and I move this little slider to the left, you'll notice that there's a minus sign here and there's a plus sign here. If I move it to the left, it's going to make it smaller. If I move that to the right, it's going to make it bigger. In other words, it's going to magnify that clip. So I want to make it smaller so that I can grab the end of this clip and slide it over to that line that I created earlier. That line that indicates that there's 5 frames. So we want this clip to be nice and short, very small. And now that I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and enlarge this a little bit more so that I can see it better. So now I want to be able to see that clip a little bit better. And I make this just a little bigger here so that I can see this a little better. Again, this is your plus sign that's going to enlarge your timeline. This is your minus sign that's going to make it smaller. So now that I have that selected, I'm going to go select it, make sure that this clip is selected. And I'm going to copy that. So I can do that with a shortcut feature on the keyboards by using Command and the letter C to copy, or I can just go up to Edit and select Copy. With the line right at the end of this clip, I'm going to go ahead and paste it. The shortcut for that in my keyboard is Command V like Valentine, or I can just go up to Edit and paste, and that'll paste it. So what you should have at this point is 2 clips right next to each other. Right down here where the pants clips are, there should be 2 clips right next to each other. And they're basically, this one is a copy of this first one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a little subtle movement to this other clip, the second clip that I just created and pasted here. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this rotation using the same transform feature, and I'm going to turn this rotation so that it's now the little legs are kind of pointing over to the right a little bit. So that's the second movement that I'm going to have, and that's going to create the animation. So if you see, if I put my timeline here, right over this first clip, you'll notice that the legs are pointing to the left, and if I put my timeline over right over this right clip, you'll notice that the legs are pointing over to the right. So that's going to be our first version of this animation. Let me go ahead and make this timeline a little bit smaller again so that I can see the whole thing. And what I want to do now is select both of those clips. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a little rectangle and kind of grab them both. And I want to copy one more time my Command C feature. That's my shortcut on my keyboard, or I can go over to my edit and copy. Now if I have this timeline right at the end of both of those clips, I'm going to go ahead and paste those clips right next to each other. Now I'm going to keep doing this over and over and over and over again until it fills up and meets the rest of those clips at the end. So I'm going to keep doing this until I get to the end. So I should have a bunch of these tiny little squares all the way up until the end. If I play this now from the very beginning, you'll notice that the other guy is now dancing a little bit. You got a little bit of a shake movement going on at the hips, and the legs are moving at the bottom. All right, so that animation part is done. We'll move forward in the next video.